Before we talk about roots and the equation of this polynomial, just a quick refresher. If we had this quadratic like you would face in Algebra 1, where y equals x squared minus 3x minus 10, in order to find the roots, what you would do is you would quickly erase that and set this whole thing equal to 0. You would double bubble, or you could use the quadratic formula, and you would end up with x minus 5 times x plus 2. Now these are your linear factors, these two things. Here's a linear factor, here's a linear factor, and if you multiply these two things together, we're going to get 0 for some values of x. So because we know that that's got to be true, we'll set each of these individually equal to 0, which you all remember how to do, I'm sure, and you'll end up with x equals 5 and x equals negative 2. So your roots would be 5 and negative 2, but your linear factors are x minus 5 and x plus 2. What we're going to practice a lot is moving backwards, starting with these things, getting our factors, which then leads us to the equation. You can work backwards just the same way as you move forward. All right, so that in mind, let's look at the roots that we have here in this polynomial. The roots are where the function crosses the x-axis. So we clearly have a root where x equals negative 3, where x equals negative 1, and another one again when x equals 3. So those are our two roots. That's nothing new to us. So our roots are when x equals negative 3, negative 1, or positive 3. All right. Now, how can we use those to find the equation for this polynomial? Well, we're going to do exactly what we would do, just moving backwards. So now we have the roots. We have to generate these linear factors. Well, as you notice, the roots have the opposite sign from our linear factors. So we're going to do just that to set up our linear factors, which is going to lead us to the equation. So because one of our roots is x minus 3, one of our factors is definitely going to be x plus 3. Another one of our roots is x minus 1, so one of our factors will be x plus 1, and our final root is x equals 3, so we will have a linear factor that is x minus 3. To get the equation, all we have to do now is work backwards. We have these linear factors. Now we need to multiply them together to get our equation. So this is everybody's nightmare. Lots of multiplication. It's not hard. It's just time consuming. So you're going to multiply the first two factors, and then you're going to get what you get there and multiply that by the third factor. Don't try to do it all at once. So let's multiply x plus 3 times x plus 1. Well, x times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times 1 is 3. And we can combine like terms. We've got an x and we've got a 3x. So we'll rewrite this as x squared plus 4x plus 3. Now we can do this again. We're going to have to take our trinomial here and multiply each of these by both of the terms in our binomial. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've done all that multiplication. Now I'm just going to combine like terms. So I see I've got a couple x squared terms. I've got a couple x to the first terms. So I'm going to combine those, which will leave me with x cubed plus x squared minus 9x minus 9. And there's my equation. Now let me just reorganize things here. And let's see. I'll reorganize this and move the y-intercept down. So my equation now, or whatever this function is, would be f of x equals x cubed plus x squared minus 9x minus 9. Now the last thing that we don't know is what is the y-intercept. Well, just by looking at the picture, we can determine what that y-intercept is. It's wherever it crosses the y-axis. So clearly that's at negative 9. But what I want you to see is that you can also notice that by looking at the equation, every time you have an equation, your y-intercept is the constant on the end. So it's this term that does not have an x with it at all. This is the constant. So we know that in this case, our y-intercept is -9. And that's true always. No matter what your equation is, the constant is going to be your y-intercept. And with all of that taken care of, that should be all of the most important things that you would need to know for the quiz coming up and for the upcoming unit. So once you got all this stuff covered, you should be fine moving forward. So good luck studying, and I will see you guys on Thursday.